श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्द गोविन्द सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। नमो नमः सद्गुरुभ्यः सद्गुरुभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो नमः सद्गुरुभ्यः सद्गुरुभ्यो नमो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रय विनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतम् अपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरह कातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। यस्वानुभावमखिल श्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपम् अतिथितीर्षतां तमोन्धं संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनुम् उपयामि गुरुं मुनीनां। योगीन्द्राय नमस्तस्मै शुकाय ब्रह्मरूपिणे संसारसर्पदष्टं यो विष्णुरातम् अमुमुचते कालव्यालमुखग्रास त्रासनिर्नाशहेतवे श्रीमद्भागवतं शास्त्रं कलौकीरेण भाषितम् एतस्मादपरं किञ्चित् मनःशुद्ध्यै न विद्यते जन्मान्तरे भवेत् पुण्यं तदा भागवतं लभेत् ज्ञानवैराग्यसम्पूर्णान् हरिभक्तिपरायणान् पूर्वाचार्यात् अहं वन्दे सम्प्रदायप्रवर्तकान् भगवन्नाम साम्राज्य लक्ष्मी सर्वस्व विग्रहं श्रीमद्बोधेन्द्र योगीन्द्र देशिकेन्द्रम् उपास्महे। कलिकालोचितं धर्मं नाम संकीर्तनात्मकं निर्णेतुम् अवतीर्णं तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे। हरे रामेति कृष्णेति नाम संकीर्तनं सदा लोकक्षेमाय कुर्वन्तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयात् इतरतश्चार्तेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनं श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषिभिस्तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्षः कृष्ण एव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुक्त्यर्थं भवसागरे मनोरथो मदीयोऽयं सफलः सर्वदा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यो दासोऽहं तव केशव। श्रीहरये नमः श्रीहरये नमः श्रीहरये नमः। गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्द सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for adjusting the new time for today. Okay, so we have a small group today, relatively. So I'll let you all volunteer. So for the first, we'll have two people do 20 stanzas each. I think 10th you can do 1 to 20, and the other person can do 21 through end and then do 10 stanzas. Okay, Sindhuji, you want to do that? Okay, who else wants to do the review? Okay, Shanti. Okay, you both can do it.
दशमोऽध्यायः विद्रोवाच अन्तर्हिते भगवति ब्रह्मालोकपितामहः प्रजाससर्जः कदिदा दैहिकीर्मानसीर्विभुः ये च मे भगवन् पृष्टाः त्वय्यर्था बहुवित्तम तान् वदस्वानुपूर्वेण छिन्दिन्नः सर्वसंशयान्। सूत उवाच एवं सञ्जोदितस्तेन क्षत्रा कौशारवो मुनिः प्रीतप्रत्याहतान् प्रश्नान् हृदि स्थानद भार्गवा। मैत्रेय उवाच विरिञ्जोऽपि तदा चक्रे दिव्यं वर्षशतं तपः आत्मन्यदात्मानमावेश्य यदाह भगवानजः
Second line, first word.
आत्मन्यात्मानमावेश्य यदाह भगवानजः तद्विलोक्याब्जसम्भूतो वायुना यदधिष्ठितः पद्ममम्भश्च तत्कालकृतवीर्येण कम्पितम् तपसा ह्येदमानेन विद्यया चात्मसंस्थया विवृद्धविज्ञानबलो नृपाद्वायुं सहाम्भसा तद्विलोक्यवियद्व्यापि पुष्करं यदधिष्ठितम् अनेन लोकान् प्राक्लीनान् अर्पितास्मीत्य चिन्तयत् पद्मकोशं तदाविश्य भगवत्कर्मचोदितः एकं यभांक्षीरुदा त्रिधा भाव्यं दुःसप्तदा एतावाञ्जीवलोकस्य संस्थाभेदसमाहृतः धर्मस्य ह्यनिमित्तस्य विभागपरमेष्ट्यसौ विदुरोवाच यदाथ बहुरूपस्य हरेरद्भुतकर्मणः कालाख्यं लक्षणं ब्रह्मन् यथा वर्णयन प्रभो मैत्रेयोवाच गुणव्यधिकारो निर्विशेषो प्रतिष्ठितः पुरुषस्तदुपादानाम् आत्मानं लीलया सृजत.
Correction, second line, upadanam. I think you said danam. You said
எந்த சாப்டர் படிக்கிறோம்?
3.10.
Okay.
3.10 stanza 11.
पुरुषस्तदुपादानम् आत्मानं लीलया सृजत विश्वं वै ब्रह्मतन्मात्रं संस्थितं विष्णुमायया ईश्वरेण परिच्छिन्नं कालेन व्यक्तमूर्तिना यदेदानीं तदाग्रे च पश्चादप्येतदीदृशम् सर्गो नवविधस्तस्य प्राकृतो वैकृतस्तु यः कालद्रव्यगुणैरस्य त्रिविधप्रतिसङ्क्रमः आद्यस्तु महदः सर्गो गुणवैषम्यमात्मनः द्वितीयस्त्वहमो यत्र द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियोदयः भूतसर्गस्तृतीयस्तु तन्मात्रो द्रव्यशक्तिमान् चतुर्थ ऐन्द्रियसर्गो यस्तु ज्ञानक्रियात्मकः वैकारिको देवसर्गः पञ्चमो यन्मयं मनः षष्ठस्तु तमसः सर्गो यस्तो बुद्धिकृतप्रभो षडिमे प्राकृता सर्गाः वैकृतानपि मे शृणु राजो भाजो भगवतो लीयेऽहं हरिमेधसः सप्तमो मुख्यसर्गस्तु षड्डिदस्तुषां च यः.
The first line, first word, Sindhuji, Rajo. I think you said Rajo by mistake. Rajo Bhajo.
Oh, Rajo Bhajo Bhagavato वनस्पत्योषधिलदा त्वक्सारा विरुधो द्रुमाः उत्स्रोदस स्तमप्रायाः अन्धस्पर्शा विशेषिणा विशेषणः ओके अन्धस्पर्शा विशेषिणः तिरश्चामष्टमः सर्गः सोष्टाविंशद्दिदो मदः अविदो भूरितमसो घ्राणज्ञा हृदयवेदिनः.
गौरजो महिषः कृष्णः सुगरो कवयोरुरुः द्विविसभाः पसवस्येमे अविरुष्टस्य सत्तम
Dvishapah, the Visarga F sound will come. Dvishapah Pasavaschemi.
द्विषपाः पसवश्चेमे अविरुष्ट्रश्च सत्तम करोस्वोस्वदरो गौरः सरभः समरीतदा एदे सैकशबाः शतः शृणु पञ्जनगान् बसुन्.
And understand the Kshattaha Kapram, we are stopping there. But in the Shapaha, you said it correct. The Visarga will come there. So it will be like Ete Chaika Shapaha Kshattaha.
एके चैककशाबा शक्तः शृणु पञ्जनगान् पशून् स्वासृगालो वृगो व्याघ्रो मार्जरः ससल्लकौ सिंहः कूर्मो गोदा च महरादयः गङ्गकृद्रुद्रवडं वडं वडस्येनभा सबल्लूगा बर्हिणः हंससारस सग्राह सग्रा सग्रा sorry हंससा
Grahva.
सग्रहाः सग्राह्व का कोलुकादयः. Did I miss the rhythm there? I'm
And
sorry.
the kadayah, when the ich ha sound will come, so that line will go Hamsa Sarasa Chakrahva Kakolu Kadayah Kaghaha.
हंससारसग्राह्व कागोलुकादयः कः
Kaghaha.
अर्वाक्सु कहाः right
Ka ga Kaghaha.
गगाः
Rajesh, sorry, in the line Ganga Krutra Pahasyenah
Batashena.
Pataya Bahasyenan இருந்தது.
Okay, I change it just for consistency, change it to Vata, V-A-T-A, Vatashena.
Ganga Kruda Vatashyenava.
Yeah, Kanga Gridra
Krutra
Vatashena.
Vatashyen. Okay, thank you.
अर्वाग्रोदस्तु नवमक्षत्तरे गविदो नृणां रजोदिका कर्मपरा दुःखे ससुगमानिनः.
அந்த நடுவுல சென்ட்ரல் லேண்டிங் அந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் லைன்ல நவமஹ அப்புறம் காமா, செகண்ட் லைன் கர்ம பராஹ தி ஆடட் விசர்கா and then a comma.
Okay,
So try that now.
अर्वाक्रोदस्तु नवमः क्षत्तरे गविदो नृणां रजोदिगाः कर्मपरा दुःखे ससुगमानिनः.
Karma paraha, anga just add a visarga because we are stopping there. Yeah.
कर्मपरा रजोदिका कर्मपराः दुःखे च सुगमानिनः वैगृद्धास्त्रय वैते देवसर्गश्च सत्तम वैगारिकस्तु यः प्रोक्तः कौमारस्तु भयात्मः.
Again, yaf proktaha, halfway point.
Okay.
Yaf proktaha.
यः प्रोक्तः कौमारस्तु भयात्मकः देवसर्गसाष्टविदो विबुधापिदरोऽसुराः गन्धर्वाप्सरससिद्धा यक्षरक्षांसि चारणाः.
Siddhaha, anga we added the visarga there on the point. Siddhaha.
गन्धर्वाप्सरसिद्धाः यक्षरक्षांसि सारणाः भूतप्रेतपिशासाश्च विद्यात्राः किन्नरदायः तशैदे विदुराख्यादाः सर्गास्ते विश्वश्रुकृताः अधः परं प्रवक्ष्यामि वंशान् मन्वन्तराणि च एवं रजः प्लुतः स्रष्टा कल्पा
Plutas srashtaha.
स्रष्टाः कल्पादिष्वात्मभूर्हरिः सृजत्य मोहसङ्कल्प आत्मैवात्मानमात्मना.
Again, sankalpaha, anga we put a visarga and comma there. Because anga we are stopping halfway point there. That's right.
Okay. सृजत्यमोघसङ्कल्पः आत्मैवात्मानमात्मना इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीयस्कन्धे दशमोऽध्यायः.
I think we did up to 11, I believe you can do till there.
11.
And the 3.11, can you do 1 to 11?
Sure. अद एकादशोऽध्यायः मैत्रेय उवाच सरमक्सत्विशेषान् सरमः सत्विशेषाणां मने गोसंयुधः सदा विज्ञेयो नृणामैक्यप्रमोदः
Explain Visheshanam, comma, Aneko Samyuta Sada. It'll start with the A next.
अमैक्यप्रमयो यतः तदैव बदातस्य स्वरूपावस्थितस्यत् कैवल्यं परममहान् विशेषो निरन्तरः
Abhishesho Nirantaraha Parama Mahan. So, in the
परममहान् अविशेषो निरन्तरः एवं कालोऽभ्यनुमितः सौक्ष्यं ये स्तौ ये सत्तम संस्थानभुक्त्या भगवान् अव्यक्तो व्यक्तभुक् विभुः सकालः परमाणुर्वैयो भुङ्क्ते परमाणुतां तदो विशेषभुग्यस्तु is there a visarga there?
Bugyestu.
भुग्यस्तु सकालः परमो महान् अणुर्द्वौ परमाणु स्यात्र स रेणुस्त्रयः स्मृतः करस्यं
And the first line, first Syat Kapran comma, then Trasarenus Trayas Smritaha.
Can you repeat it? Sorry.
And the first line after Syat, there is a comma, and then it is
Okay.
Trasarenus Trayas Smritaha.
Okay. Anurtvau paramanu syat trasarenusत्रयः स्मृतः
Trayas Smritaha.
त्रयस्मृतः
Jalarka Rashmyavagataha.
जालाकरस्म्यवतः खमेवानुपदन्नगात् प्रसरेणुत्रिकं भुक्तेयः कालः sorry, I can't get that.
Trutis Smritaha.
सदृक् तदभागस्तु वेदः स्यात्तैस्त्रिभिस्तु लवः स्मृतः.
And the recording work because I think you're on the halfway point is not landing. Like even the previous line after Bhungte is the halfway point, right?
Okay.
So now the next is 5 children. So you just, but you listen to the recording and just mark it.
Rajesh, try pantuma.
Try pannunga Ramesh.
So now 5 la irundhu sottuma.
6 you can start from 6.
Trasarenu trakam bhungte yakkalah sadrishti samvrutah sapakadastu vedasya vedah syat taistribhistu lavasamvrutah निमिषोस्त्रिलोवो यज्ञः आम्नातस्ते त्रयक्षणः क्षणात् पञ्चविदुत्काष्ठां लघुता तत्तस पञ्चसः
First time and the Trayaha Angamati you have to say that Visarga because Ksha is coming. So Amnataste Trayaha Kshanaha.
Oh, त्रयक्षणः आम्नातस्ते त्रयक्षणः
Yaha
क्षणः विसर्गं करेक्ट्
Trayaha Kshanaha.
त्रयः क्षणः आम्नातस्ते त्रयः क्षणः क्षणात् पञ्चविदुःकाष्ठां लघुताताश पञ्च च लघुनी वै समाम्नाता दश पञ्च च नाटिका ते त्वै मुहूर्तप्रहरः षष्ट्यामः सप्तवानृणाम् षड्यामः विसर्गं लिया षष्ट्यामः
No, you're saying Shasht.
षड्यामः सप्तवानृणाम् द्वादशार्थफलोन्मानं चतुर्भिश्चतुरङ्गुलैः स्वर्णमाशैकृतचित्रं यावत् प्रस्थजलुप्लुप्तं यामश्चत्वारश्चत्वारे मर्द्याना महिनी उभे Panchadashathani Sukla Krishnascha Manata.
And the first line, the ஒரே word மட்டும் chatvaro before the comma. Okay, he said chatvaro.
Okay. Yamaschatvaraschatvaro Mardhyana Mahivupe Pakshak Panchadasasani Sukla Krishnascha Manata. Dhayo samuschayo masah pitrunam dahirnisham dvau shatayanam dakshinam chotaram dvi.
Yeah, I think that's where we start. Okay. All right. So let's get into 3.1. I won't go too much into details. I'm losing my voice the last 1 week. So, but we'll see how much we can cover in the meaning today. So in the last class, right, we saw the 6 sarga creations which happened out of the out of the Vishnu, Mahavishnu first, which happened, all the basic elements. And then Brahma, we saw the 4 creations, which are the visargas, which happened, like all the vegetations that is there, all the humans which are there, all the demigods. Now, it doesn't mean that those have already happened yet. It is just saying these are all the 10 types of creations which happen. Brahma does these 4, Bhagavan does these 6. The creations are just now going to happen, right? So before it gets into the creation itself, because later on, there is going to be words thrown around like Manvantara, Naimitika Pralaya, Manu, and all these words. So we have to understand what that means in the context of time, right? So this chapter, because from 12, the actual beings will start coming. Sanat Kumaras will all start coming from chapter 12. So chapter 11 is kind of establishing all the concept of time. What is from the smallest unit of time to the highest unit of time according to Vedic cosmology, right? That is what whole chapter 11 is, right? So there's not too much to explain. That's why I sent some tables, because a lot of the stanzas are really telling those conversions between one and the other, right? Some of which are not too relevant for us because we don't measure anything in microseconds and milliseconds, so it's not relevant for us. But some of the macro timelines, we can take a look at it. But it first starts with first stanza, Paramanu, so the smallest unit as defined in the Vedic cosmology is something called as the Paramanu. So the Anu is like an atom, relatively speaking. Paramanu is even lower than that. It says that is the lowest indivisible particle that exists. It's called Paramanu, right? So that is the indivisible particle of matter. So nothing can, it cannot be broken down into anything else. That's the Paramanu. Now that Paramanu, of course, does not have a shape or a form or any of these things. So when we initially talked about the unmanifested universe, where nothing is existing, but just matter is there, it says it's all these Paramanus which are existing. Because nothing is there, but there's always something, right? So these Paramanus are existing, but the Paramanus have not joined hands and created various levels which come after that. So it is all in that state of Paramanu state initially, right? And then these Paramanus then start combining and then it forms various things. So it says 2 of these Paramanus end up forming an Anu and 3 of these Paramanus forms a Trinuka, which is like another level, right? So all of these things, the Paramanu, Anu, and the 3, none of this is observable with the naked eye. This is all the smallest unit of particles which cannot be measured, which cannot be seen with our naked eye. So the time always starts with the lowest particle. So it says the time it takes for a Paramanu to move a Paramanu distance is the lowest of the time in Vedic cosmology. Okay, so because the Paramanu is existing, that's the smallest particle. Now the Paramanu is also vibrating, right? So the vibration, the time distance is, time is distance by speed, right? We know that. So the distance a Paramanu takes to go a Paramanu distance is the time, the lowest unit of time that is there. And from there, everything else starts building up, right? And so that is the lowest amount of time. And the largest amount of time is the entire life of Brahma. Okay, so now the tables I sent you, right, it actually will start measuring it from the smallest element of Paramanu. It goes all the way up to the life of Brahma. So if you look at the first table I sent, it literally is talking about, it is starting with a Truti, which is the smallest unit, which is, if I'm looking at my screen here, it says 3 zeros 592 seconds. So the Truti is a Paramanu, 2 Paramanus make a Anu, 3 Paramanus make a Trasaranu. The 3 Trasaranus, when they integrate amongst themselves, the time it takes, that is the smallest unit, which is the 1 Truti. So the Paramanu time is even lower, right? It's way lower than that 0.3000592 seconds. So it's already going into milliseconds, microseconds at that point. Anyway, that is the lowest. And from there, it will start adding, right? Various combinations, multiplications come. And eventually it lands with, Muhurtam. When we say 1 Muhurtam, it's referring to 48 minutes. So that is 1 Muhurtam, and then it talks about 1 full day, which is 24 hours. So that is one calculation of time. We don't have to spend much time on it. That is just table is there for reference, right? If somebody just word, you understand. But the main thing, it again talks then about the various pakshas which are there. So now you come to 1 day, which is 24 hours. So then it says a paksha is, you have Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha, right? It's a lunar calendar, not a solar calendar. So 28 days, right? So it talks about the Shukla Paksha is from the time Amavasya happens to the Paurnami happens. That is called as a Shukla Paksha because the moon is getting brighter, right? So it is the white. Shukla means white. So white Paksha means the moon is getting brighter. So that 14 days is considered Shukla Paksha. The other waning 14 days is considered Krishna Paksha. And that whole 28 days is considered 1 lunar month. Now, there is this is according to the Earth timeline, right? That we all work on. So now there is a higher world when we start going into. There's a Pitralokam. So the Pitralokam, in a very simple way, is to understand where your soul goes after it leaves your body, before it incarnates again. Now, if you are advanced being and you get promoted, you may go to a Devaloka or some other loka. You go to Swargam. You go to all these other things as you get liberated. But let's say hypothetically you're not getting liberated. You're going to be born into earth again, or you're going to be born into another lower realm again. There is a resting place for the souls in between the transition points, between the transition of births. So that is the Pitraloka, which is there. So in the Pitraloka, it says 1 day of the Pitraloka is 1 month of us for us. So that's why we do Amavasya Tarpanam once a month, because it's like feeding your Pitras or feeding your Pitra souls once a day, right? So that is the concept of why we're doing it once a month there for Amavasya. Then it talks about, the various seasons, which we don't worry. Then Uttarayana, where the sun is northward direction, Dakshinayana. So January to July is Uttarayana, and then July to mid-Jan again is Dakshinayana, right? So then this whole year of Earth, which is 365 days, so 1 year for us, is considered as 1 day as you go in the higher realm. So we have Bur, Bhuva, Suvaha, the various lokas, the Swarga Loka, where the Devas reside. That 1 day for the Devas is 1 year for us. So that's why the Uttarayana is considered the daytime and Dakshinayana is considered as a nighttime for the Devas, because they're generally dividing it equally, 12 hours day, 12 hours night. Maybe there is approximations here and there, right? So that constitutes the 1 year for 1 day for Devas is 1 year for us. Okay, so 360 years approximately of human years is considered 1 year of the Devas, who are there in the Swarga Loka. But the main thing that comes then on is, the time of the Brahma that we spoke about, right? So to take a step back, right? So there are 4 yugas that are there. And the yuga is just a timeline. So first you think of the life of Brahma. So Brahma has 1 day. That 1 day of Brahma is considered as a kalpa of Brahma. So that is the day we saw earlier when Brahma woke up. Not the first day, because the first day is unique. But any other day, Brahma wakes up, and then we saw how he came up from the bud of the lotus, and then he tried to get to the source. He understood that. We saw that earlier, right? So that is the first beginning of the day of Brahma. And then there is 1 day of Brahma. The equal amount of that 1 day of Brahma is also considered 1 night of Brahma. So 1 kalpa is referring to 1 day, and the same 1 kalpa duration is also 1 night of Brahma. So that 1 night of Brahma is where we saw this, where Brahma and everybody gets absorbed into that Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and nothing is happening at that period, which is at 1 night of Brahma. That is called as the Naimittika Pralaya, which is an intermediary Pralaya, which is happening between the days of Brahma. Now, in this Naimittika Pralaya, the way to think about it is, everything, like we saw the 14 worlds. So the Bhuloka, which is where we are, then the Bhuvar Loka, which is 1 level above, and the Swarga Loka, Suvar Loka. From that Suvarloka, everything down is completely destroyed. Those worlds don't exist anymore. Okay, they're completely destroyed. And completely destroyed in the sense they go away, but eventually they all rest in a seed form in this Garbhodaka Shayi Vishnu. But those physical worlds don't exist anymore. But the higher worlds which are there, like the Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, where Brahma sits, those lokas remain physically. Okay, but Brahma himself, just putting a gender for Brahma as a male here, but Brahma himself, he gets absorbed into Garbhodaka Shayi Vishnu. So Brahma also does not exist, like nothing is happening, but those physical worlds exist. But there is also another explanation which goes that some of the liberated sages who are in a state of samadhi, in the Janaloka, Tapaloka, they remain in that state of samadhi. Because at that period where the Naimitika Pralaya is happening, absolutely nothing is happening. There cannot be any activity that is happening. So people who are in a state of samadhi, they're technically nothing is happening. They're just in a state of samadhi. They're not going to wake up and do activity, right? So they continue to remain in that state of samadhi during that Naimitika Pralaya. All the bottom worlds are destroyed and everybody gets merged into Garbhodaka Shayi Vishnu. So that is the night time of Brahma as we consider. That is called as a Naimitika Pralaya, that particular period of that thing. Now, this one kalpa of Brahma is divided into 1,000 Chaturyugas. 1,000 Chaturyugas constitute 1 year, 1 day of Brahma. A Chaturyuga is a combination of your Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga. Each of those yugas you add one of each. It constitutes 1 Chaturyuga. Now, thousands of these Chaturyugas is just 1 day of Brahma. Now, each of these yugas, if you look at the table I sent you, if you put Kali Yuga as X equals to 432,000 years. The Dwapara Yuga is 2X, so 2 times 432, which is 864,000 years. And then the Treta Yuga is 3 times Kali Yuga, so 3 times 432,000. And Satya Yuga is 4 times 432,000. So if you add all of this, that is 1 Chaturyuga. That 1,000 Chaturyugas constitute 1 day of Brahma, where activity is happening. Then the equal amount of time is Naimitika Pralaya, where it's a night of Brahma. All of this is considered like our 24 hours, which we loosely call a day, which is 1 day, 1 night is 1. And then Brahma now lives for 100 years, right? So you kind of approximately multiply by 360 and then 100. That is the entire life of Brahma. And at that entire life of Brahma, when that gets over, is the Prakritika Pralaya, where absolutely nothing exists. So this Garbhodaka Shayi Vishnu, again, I keep using he here, but the Garbhodaka Shayi Vishnu itself merges into that Karanodaka Shayi Vishnu. Because you remember first, from that Karanodaka Shayi Vishnu, multiple universes are coming. This entire universe is destroyed and goes back into that Karanodaka Shayi Vishnu, which is at the end of the life of Brahma, which is considered 100 years. That is the entire timeline. Now you take this 1 kalpa or 1 day of Brahma, which is 1,000 Chaturyugas. Now Brahma cannot be ruling directly. So what he does is he has designative, people, right, supervisors. So he divides his entire day into 14 manvantaras. A manvantara is a period which is ruled by 1 Manu. It's a ruler, like we said, it's like a CEO, it's a title, right? So you take this 1,000, you divide by 14, it comes to approximately 71 point something. So that 71 point something Chaturyuga is ruled by 1 Manu. And then that Manu's role gets over, next Manu comes on, right? So if you think of a company or if you think of a country where a president comes, it's a title. The president comes, what he does, he or she will completely break the cabinet and bring in different people. But the role still exists. You still have the Secretary of State, you still have the Vice President, you still have all these people, which is what is happening. So when a Manu changes, you get a new Indra, you get a new Agni Deva, you get a new Varuna Deva, you get a new, all these are just roles. So all of them, they just appoint different people to those roles when they actually come. You get a new set of Saptarishis who come with each of those Manus. It's like the Supreme Court justices kind of people, right, who govern the universe, right? So they bring around their own team. So all of these are titles. So this Manu, which is going on, so we are right now in if you look at the Sankalpam that we say, we say, Dvipararde. No, let me just, before that, let me just think of one more thing I wanted to say. So we spoke about the Manus. Yeah. So when we go today and we say the Sankalpam, right? So we will say Vaivaswata Manvantare, but before that we say Dviparardhe, Ashtabimshati Tame, Chaturyuge, Pratame Phate, we say all that stuff, right? So it is saying that 100 years of Brahma, you break it into first 50 years, second 50 years. First 50 years is Pratama Parardhe. We are now in the Dvitiya Parardhe. So we are in the second 50 years of Brahma. In that second 50 years of Brahma, Dvitiya Pararthe, Shweta Varaha Kalpe. Kalpa is one day. So we are in this Kalpa called as Shweta Varaha Kalpa because in this Bhagavan took a Varahan avataram as a white boar. So it is called as Shweta Varaha Kalpa. So in the Dvitiya Pararthe, second 50 years of Brahma, Shweta Varaha Kalpe, in the first day of his 51st year, day which is called as Shweta Varaha Kalpe, Vaivaswata Manvantare, remember the Kalpa is divided into 14 Manus. We are in the 7th Manu, who is Vaivaswata Manu, Vaivaswata Manvantare, Ashtavimshati Thame, so that Manu has 71 Chaturyugas. We are in the 28th Chaturyuga of this Vaivaswata Manu. So Ashtavimshati Thame. In the 28th Chaturyuga, we are in the Kali Yuga. We are in the Kali Yuga. We are in the Pratame Pade. So we are in the first quarter of that Kali Yuga. So you kind of narrow down from the day of Brahma to your current day, right? You're saying I'm in the first quarter of this Kali Yuga. In that, I'm in this Varsham, I'm in this star, I'm in this Nakshatram, all of these things. That's how this whole logic flows, right? So the time is just enormous amount of time that is there, right? That when we talk about this whole thing. Anyway, but the only relevant conversation for this is when we say a Manu, we have to understand how powerful a Manu is. Because a Manu rules over 71 Chaturyugas. So when you talk about Swayambhuva Manu, Vaivaswata Manu, all of who are going to come later, they are all, and it talks about it, they are all your Bhagavan's partial expansions because they are no different than Brahma. They are like literally one level below Brahma, right? So Brahma himself came directly from the Bhagavan. So similarly, these Manus are also your incarnations or your avatars, which are actually happening there, right? And for those who have done Devi Mahatmyam, right? The first stanza, first thing of Devi Mahatmyam itself says, Savarna Surya Tanayo Yomanu Katyateshtamaha. It says, let me tell you about this Manu called as Savarni, who is going to become the 8th Manu. We are now only in the 7th Manu. So he is going to be the 8th Manu, right? So you say, let me tell you about the story of that Manu, right? And that king who is there, the Surata, who's the king, he becomes the 8th Manu. Right? So it was the story of this 8th Manu, and it was being said during the time of the 2nd Manu, because it is Swaro Chishentare Purvam. So in the Manu, Swaro Chisha, who is the 2nd Manu, that Sumedas, who is the Rishi, was telling the story to the king and the Vaishya about the king who then became the 8th Manu, just to set a timeline context of that, right? But anyway, but all of this is just to get so that you have an idea of the time. We don't have to remember every single thing. But I'll just stop here to see if anyone has any quick questions on this. But I think the table I sent you is pretty, detailed enough to just follow, right? If you want.
Rajesh, a quick question. So when the Naimitya Pralayam happens, the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu also will go into Garbhodakashayi Vishnu.
Vishnu, although it is, because it's an extension of Bhagavan, right? You can kind of keep that Vishnu not quite in the context of the material realm. Although that Kshirodakashayi Vishnu is associated with this Brahmandam along with the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, at the end of the day, he is still an extension of the Lord, right? So this normal rules of the material universe where everything is getting absorbed into this Garbhodakashayi Vishnu doesn't quite apply to that Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, right? So that Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, you kind of keep him separate, right? As he's still in a spiritual world, although he's associated with this Brahmandam, right? It is still an extension of Bhagavan. Okay. Right, and in the end, they all eventually go back to the Karnodakashayi Vishnu, who is also who is a super Vishnu, right, Mahavishnu, right? So yeah, so that's the simplest way to think about it. So he's still there, but no activity is happening. That is a time where absolutely nothing is happening. There is no birth happening, no death happening, no activity happening. It is just a moment of stillness that is there all over the universe at that period, for that duration, for that one kalpa.
Rajesh, the timeline, everything set from our perspective, right? Like which you are saying that the Nimisha, Tati and everything with that. So does it change in a different plane?
Because for us, if like we said, 1 year for us is 1 day in Devaloka, right? And 1 month for us is 1 day in Pitruloka, right? Now, so another the concept, the relative concept of time is completely different, right? Like when you have this this cicada which comes in summer, which only lives for 1 day, right? So that whole lifespan is only 1 day, right? But within that 1 day, that cicada probably goes, it mates, it lives, it dies, it does all these things in 1 day. So its relative definition of time for the cicada is different from us. It's born and then it grows, it mates, it gives birth, and then it dies. It does all these things in 1 day for us. Right? But when for the cicada, that will feel like a really long lifetime.
Like
Right?
we put the dog ears, cat ears here, right?
So like for the Pitrus, for them, like a day, concept of a day is 1 month of our duration is their concept of a day, duration of a day.
Okay.
I have a quick question. You explained something about Ashtavimsati Tame. What is that? Can you
So
say?
attention, and the one Manu,
Yeah.
the Manu rules over 71 and a quarter Chaturyugas.
Mhm.
And the 71 and a quarter Chaturyuga, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 71. We are now in the 28th Chaturyuga.
Okay. Okay.
So in the 28th Chaturyuga, we are in the Kali Yuga. Because the 28th Chaturyuga has 4 yugas.
So 3 is already done. So we are in
3 is
the
already done. So now we are in the 4th Chaturyuga. So in that 4th Chaturyuga, which is the Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. Only 5,000 years have passed. So we are still in the first quarter of that Kali Yuga. Because they're just breaking that Kali Yuga into 4 parts. And saying we are in the first quarter.
Okay.
All right. So let's start from 12, right? No, 11. Sorry. Okay. Okay.
11
Still some reason.
11 or 12.
3.11, we have to start from 12.
Okay.
Okay. Srividya, Sriram, can you be student? And then Vani Garu, you can be student. Okay, 443. Okay. Ahane, Chahani, Prahuhu. Put a visarga comma there. Prahuhu. Next, on top of the ver, there is a ir that will go away. Vatsaro Dwadasha Smritaha. Samvatsara Shatam Nrunam, double Nrunam, comma, Paramayur Nirupitam. So we'll just do only one time today. Ahane Chahani Prahuhu, Vatsaro Dwadasha Smritaha, Samvatsara Shatam Nrunam, Paramayur Nirupitam.
என்னோட
அது
bookல
அயனேவா
அயனே
அகனேவா
போட்டிருக்கு.
Ayane, sorry, what did I say?
அகனே சொன்னேன்,
Oh,
அதான்
sorry, Ayane, yeah.
अयने चाहनी प्राहुः वत्सरो द्वादश स्मृतः संवत्सरशतं नृणां परमायुर्निरूपितम्.
अयने चाहनी प्राहुः वत्सरो 12 स्मृतः संवत्सरशतं नृणां परमायुर्निरूपितम्.
Graharksha Tara Chakrastah, comma, Paraman Vadina Jagate Samvatsaravasanena, one word, Samvatsara Avasanena, so Samvatsaravasanena, comma, Paryetya Nimisho Vibuhu. Graharkshatara Chakrastah, Paraman Vadina Jagate Samvatsaravasanena, Paryetya Nimisho Vibuhu.
ग्रहर्ष ताराचक्रस्तः परमाण्वादिनज्जगत् संवत्सरावसानेन पर्येत्य निमिषो विभुः.
ग्रहर्क्षतारचक्रस्थः परमाणुर्वादिना जगत् संवत्सरावसानेन पर्यत्य निमिषो विभुः.
That first line, Paraman, you said Paramanur or something. Paraman Vadina Jagat.
Okay. Paramanvadina Jagat.
We were just saying that everything from the smallest of the paramanu, which is the smallest of the item we saw, to every single star and what we call a sun and the stars and the planets, everything are constantly moving in some orbit of its. Each of the orbit has a certain timeline for it to make one cycle, right? So like the earth is going around the sun is actually going also around in the Milky Way galaxy. It is going around a central point, right? It's going around the pole star, the entire solar system that's going around the pole star too. So everything is moving. Their definition of completing a cycle is different because it's different timelines. Paramanu will go around in its own orbit much faster than how our own solar system will have to go around the galaxy, right? So the timelines are different. Everything is vibrating and everything is going around in its axis. Samvatsarah parivatsarah. So add a visarga there. Parivatsarah, comma. Idavatsara evacha. Anuvatsaro vatsarascha, comma. Viduraivam prabhashyate. संवत्सरः परिवत्सरः इडावत्सर एव च अनुवत्सरो वत्सरश्च विदुरैवं प्रभाष्यते.
संवत्सरः परिवत्सरः इडावत्सर एव च अनुवत्सरो वत्सरश्च विदुरैवं प्रभाष्यते.
संवत्सरः परिवत्सरः इडावत्सर एव च अनुवत्सरो वत्सरश्च विदुरैवं प्रभाष्यते.
Yes, सृज्य शक्तिम urudochvasayan. So that word you cannot break it. So shaktim urudochvasayan swashaktya, comma. Pumso bhramaya divi dhavati bhuta vedah kalakyaya gunamayam kratubhir bitanvanne. So if you're following Sanskrit, it will have bitanva and the im on top, and it will have is in the next line. So you just remove both the im on top and the is. It becomes a im when you break it. So bitanvanne, comma. Next line, tasmai balim harata vatsara panchakaya. यस्सृज्य शक्तिम् उरुदोच्छ्वसयन् स्वशक्त्या पुंसो भ्रमाय दिवि धावति भूतभेदः कालाख्यया गुणमयं क्रतुभिर्वितन्वन् तस्मै बलिं हरत वत्सर पंचकाय.
यस्सृज्य शक्तिम् उरुतोच्छ्वसयन् स्वशक्त्या पुंसो प्रमाय द्विति तावति भूतभेदः कालाख्यया गुणमयं क्रतुभिर्वितन्वन् तस्मै बलिं हरत वत्सर पंचकाय.
And the third line, bitanvan. And the first line is Srividya. And the urudochvasayan. So the ch and va comes together. So CH, chwa. Urudochvasayan.
Okay. Urudochvasayan swashaktya.
Yeah.
यस्सृज्य शक्तिमुरुदोच्छ्वसयन् श्वशक्त्या पुंसो भ्रमाय दिवि धावति भूतभेदः कालाख्यया गुणमयं क्रतुभिर्वितन्वन् तस्मै बलिं हरति वत्सर पंचकाय.
Harata. No, I think you said harati, you said harata.
Harata. Yeah.
Viduro vacha. Pitru deva manushyanam, put a im there, comma. Next word starts with a. Ayuh paramidam smritam. Paresham gatim achakshva, comma. Yesyuh kalpat bahir vidaha. So he's just now asking about, okay, you told about all these small timelines, which is all the kshanam and all the everything which we saw. Now tell me about Pitrus, Devas, Manushyas, and then Brahma. What is the Kalpa? What are all of those? So the higher level timelines. Vidura uvacha Pitrudeva Manushyanam Ayuh paramidam smritam Paresham gatima chakshva Yesyuh kalpat bahir vidaha.
Vidura uvacha पितृदेव मनुष्याणाम् आयुः परमिदं स्मृतं परेषां गतिमाचश्व ये स्युः कल्पात् बहिर्वितः
विदुर उवाच पितृदेव मनुष्याणाम् आयुः परमिदं स्मृतं परेषां गतिमाचक्ष्व ये स्युः कल्पात् बहिर्विदः
भगवान् वेदकालस्य गतिं भगवतो ननु विश्वं विचक्षते धीराः. Again, put a visarga there because we're going to comma, put a comma, धीराः yoga radhena chakshusha. भगवान् वेदकालस्य गतिं भगवतो ननु विश्वं विचक्षते धीराः योगराधेन चक्षुषा.
भगवान् वेदकालस्य गतिं भगवतो ननु विश्वं विचक्षते धीराः योगरातेन चक्षुषा योगरातेन चक्षुषा.
भगवान् वेदकालस्य गतिं भगवतो ननु विश्वं विचक्षते धीराः योगराद्धेन चक्षुषा.
मैत्रेयो वाच कृतं त्रेता द्वापरं च कलिश्चेति चतुर्युगं दिव्यैर्द्वादशभिर्वर्षैः सावधानं निरूपितम्. So he's now breaking the 4 yugas which are there, right? And then which are called. So now the other thing is the combination of these chatur yugas, right? It's equal to Dvadashabhir Varshai, 12,000 years of the gods. That you can see from the table, the simple conversion. 1 year for us is 1 day for them. You kind of use that logic. So 360 years for us is 1 year for the Devas. You add all these Chatur Yugas together, divide by 360, it will give you 12,000 approximately, right? So so later on, when the word Divya Varsham is coming, the Divya Varsham is referring to the godly years, not the human years, right? Later on, some of the places it will come. Divya Varshai, which means the 12,000 1 year for them is 360 years human equivalent. That's the conversion we have to make at that time. Maitreyo vacha kritam treta dwaparam cha kalischeti chaturyugam divye dwadashabhir varshaihi savadhanam nirupitam.
मैत्रेयो उवाच कृतं त्रेता द्वापरं च कलिश्चेति चतुर्युगं दिव्यैर्द्वादशभिर्वर्षैः सावधानं निरूपितम्.
कृतं त्रेता द्वापरं च कलिश्चेति चतुर्युगं दिव्यैर्द्वादशभिर्वर्षैः सावधानं निरूपितम्.
चत्वारि त्रीणि द्वे चैकं कृतादिषु यथाक्रमं संख्यातानि सहस्राणि द्विगुणानि शतानि च. So he's just explaining this various yugas of humans in the context of the years of the devas. Just that's the way he's explaining. You can multiply by 360, you'll get the human version of it, right? So he's just saying each of these yugas are this much long in the Deva Varsha. चत्वारि त्रीणि द्वे चैकं कृतादिषु यथाक्रमं संख्यातानि सहस्राणि द्विगुणानि शतानि च.
चत्वारि त्रीणि द्वे चैकं कृतादिषु यथाक्रमं संख्यातानि सहस्राणि द्विगुणानि शतानि च. द्विगुणानि शतानि च.
Small divya.
चत्वारि त्रीणि द्वे चैकं कृतादिषु यथाक्रमं संख्यातानि सहस्राणि द्विगुणानि शतानि च.
Sandhyam shayor antarena. You can break it that ra if you want. Sandhyam shayor antarena, yah kalash shata sankhyayoho tamevahur yugam tajnyaha. Again, we add a visargan comma, tajnyaha. Yatra dharmo vidiyate. He's just saying that when that what do you call, the transition points happens between the various the 4 Chaturyugams, or even between Manvantaras, right? If you take the 1000 Chaturyugas, divide by 14, you will not get an exact number of Chaturyugams. You'll get 71 point some Chaturyugams and all that. So he says there's always, when there's a transition point happening, there will be some gap set of years which are just to filler years, right, for simple purposes, right? May not be an exact rounding error. So in that sense, at that point, it's called as a Yuga Sandhyas, which are the transition points between the Yugas, or even the transition point between the various Manus, which is also a period of no activity. It is just at that period, it's just nothing is happening, right? Sometimes, like, there could be a pralayam also which could happen. So we'll see between the 6th Manu, Chakshusha Manu, and the 7th Manu, Vaivaswata Manu, there will be a Matsya Avataram which is going to happen, which is a Pralayam which is going to happen, right? So those are all, like, not every time. It happens just as fillers sometimes.
So the
Sandhya.
Dashavataram happens again also in all this. The Dashavataram also happens.
See, like I said the other day, right? You scale this all the way up to one Kalpa of Brahma. Everything that is in the record is only of the first day of the 51st year of Brahma. And what happened when Brahma was first came out, first day, first thing. So, Matta Kalpasla, what happened? There are no records.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what happened in the previous day of Brahma is the same Dasha. Again, avatarams are more than 10. Remember, right? We said avataraha asankyaha. There are thousands of avatarams. So, whether which happens in every Kalpa, is it consistent? No records of it.
Right. We have, the Dhrava Yugam, Krishna came, and before Rama came. So when these Yugams repeats, so those Avataram also comes into that same again.
In see again in the Chaturyugatla, in this Chaturyugam, that's why you have to say which Manvantara, because we are going to see avatarams happening in Swayambhuva Manu's Manvantara. Swayambhuva Manu, right? Some avatarams, Narasimha Avataram is going to happen in different Manu. Okay, Matsya Avataram is going to happen between the 6th and the 7th Manu. Varaha Avataram is going to happen during Swayambhuva Manu. Right? Krishna Avataram, Rama Avataram happened during Vaivaswata Manu. So that means that one Chatur Yugam doesn't need to have all these avatarams. You have to lay out the entire day of Brahma, and then these avatarams are scattered through those various points. So your relative, sense of time is not going to be, it's not going to be like 1-4 yugas, and in this yuga, Satya Yuga, this happened, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, this happened. Yeah, sure. All the way from Parashurama to Rama and Krishna, all that happened in this Chaturyugam. All the other avatarams happened in a completely different Chaturyugams in a different Manu's time period, which we will see as we go through the various avatarams. I will tell you which Manu, which Yugam it happened at that time.
Because
Okay.
if they talked about Kali in the Kali Yugam, like the Kali Avatara, they talk about that one in that.
That is only at the end of the Kali Yugam.
Right.
432,000 years.
So
we are in year 5,000.
So there is no reference of the Kali Avatara, like
It said at the end of the Kali Avataram, you are going to come. That's all it is said, right? It is, when we went through the list of Avatarams, it said that.
Okay.
Okay. But there's no description of that in Bhagavatam, though. Like what actually is going to happen, there's no description. There's a mention of that, that's all. Sandhyamshayorantarena yah kalashata sankhyayoho tamevahur yugam tajnyaha yatra dharmo vidiyate.
सन्ध्यांशोरन्तरेण यः काल शतसङ्ख्ययोः तमेवाहुर्युगं तज्ञाः यत्र धर्मो विधीयते.
The first line, Sandhyam Shayor.
Sandhyam Shayor.
Yeah.
Okay. Sandhyam Shayor Antarena.
सन्ध्यांशयोरन्तरेण यः कालशतसङ्ख्ययोः तमेवाहुर्युगं तज्ज्ञाः यत्र धर्मो विधीयते.
Dharmash Chatushpan Manujan, Krite Samanuvartate, Sa Evanyeshwa Dharmena, one word, Evanyeshwa Dharmena, Vyeti Padena Vardhatha. Dharmaschatushpan manujan krite samanuvartate sa evanyeshva dharmena व्येतिपादेन वर्धता.
धर्मश्चतुष्पान् मनुज्ञान् कृते समनुवर्तते स एवान्येष्वधर्मेण व्येतिपादेन वर्तता.
The first line Manujan. I think you said Manugnan, you said.
Oh, Manujan. Okay.
धर्मश्चतुष्पान् मनुजान् कृते समनुवर्तते स एवान्येष्व धर्मेण व्येतिपादेन वर्धता.
Trilokya Yuga Sahasram, Bahira Brahmano Dinam Tavatyeva Nishatata, Yen Nimilati Vishwasrika. It's talking about one day of Brahma, what it is, which is 1000 Chaturayugams. Trilokya Yuga Sahasram Bahira Brahmano Dinam Tavatyeva Nishatata Yen Nimilati Vishwasrika.
त्रिलोक्यायुग साहस्रं बहिरा ब्रह्मणो दिनं तावत्येव निशातात यन्निमीलति विश्वसृक्.
त्रिलोक्यायुगसाहस्रं बहिरा ब्रह्मणो दिनं तावत्येव निशातात यन्मीलति विश्वसृक्. यन्निमीलति विश्वसृक्.
निशावसान आरब्धो, लोक कल्पोनु वर्तते यावत् दिनं भगवतो, मनून् भुञ्जंश् चतुर्दश. 14 manus. Saying that entire day is divided into 14 manus. निशावसान आरब्धो लोककल्पोनु वर्तते यावद्दिनं भगवतो मनून् भुञ्जंश्चतुर्दश.
निशावसान आरब्धो लोककल्पोऽनुवर्तते यावद्दिनं भगवतो मनून् भुञ्जंश्च चतुर्दश.
निशावसान आरब्धो लोककल्पोऽनुवर्तते यावद्दिनं भगवतो मनून् भुञ्जंश्चतुर्दश.
त्वं कालं मनुर्भुङ्क्ते, साधिकां हेकसप्ततिं मन्वन्तरेषु मनवः. That is, you can remove, put a visarga, मनवः. तद्वंश्या ऋषयः सुराः भवन्ति चैव युगपत्, सुरेशाश्चानु ये च तान्. Like we discussed earlier, each of them will have their own set of Sapta Rishis and Indra and everybody who comes along with them, the Manus. Swam swam kalam manurbhunkte sadhikam heka saptatim manvantareshu manavah tadvamshya rishayas suraha bhavanti chaiva yugapate sureshashchanu ye chatan.
स्वं स्वं कालं मनुर्भुङ्क्ते साधिकां ह्येकसप्ततिं मन्वन्तरेषु मनवः तद्वंश्या ऋषयः सुराः भवन्ति चैव युगपत् श्रेषाश्चानु ये च तान्.
Sureshash.
स्वं स्वं कालमनुर्भुङ्क्ते साधिकां ह्येकसप्ततिं मन्वन्तरेषु मनवः तद्वंश्यां ऋषयः सुराः भवन्ति चैव युगपत् सुरेशाश्चानु ये च तान्.
एष दैनन् दिनस् सर्गो, ब्राह्मस् त्रैलोक्य वर्तनः तिर्यङ् इंग sound तिर्यङ् नृ पितृ देवानां, संभवो यत्र कर्मभिः. Again, we are going to see a lot about these manus later. There are chapters dedicated to each of the Manus going through in sequence who their children are, because of this Dhruva story that is going to come, Prahlada story, it's all going to come in the context of the Manus. Okay, now let me talk about this Manu, Rishabha Yogishwara. Everything is going to come. So don't worry about knowing details. You just have to understand the general concept of what a Manu is or who a Manu is. So later on, when that comes, you don't question what is a Manu, right? So anyway, this एष दैनन्दिनः सर्गो ब्राह्मस्त्रैलोक्यवर्तनः तिर्यङ् नृपितृदेवानां सम्भवो यत्र कर्मभिः
एष दैनन्दिनः सर्गो ब्रह्मस्त्रैलोक्यवर्तनः नृपितृदेवानां सम्भवो यत्र कर्मभिः
एष दैनन्दिनः सर्गो ब्राह्मस्त्रैलोक्यवर्तनः तिर्यङ् नृपितृदेवानां सम्भवो यत्र कर्मभिः
मन्वन्तरेषु भगवान् बिभ्रत् तत्त्वं स्वमूर्तिभिः मन्वादिभिरिदं विश्वं, we're going to break that ma, vishwam, next word starts with a avadyudita paurushah. मन्वन्तरेषु भगवान् बिभ्रत् सत्त्वं स्वमूर्तिभिः मन्वादिभिरिदं विश्वम् अवत्युदित पौरुषः.
मन्वन्तरेषु भगवान् बिभ्रत् सत्त्वं स्वमूर्तिभिः मन्वादिभिरितं विश्वम् अवत्युदित पौरुषः.
मन्वन्तरेषु भगवान् बिभ्रत् सत्त्वं स्वमूर्तिभिः मन्वादिभिरिदं विश्वम् अत्यत्युदितपौरुषम् अवत्युदितपौरुषम् अवद्युदितपौरुषः.
तमो मात्राम् उपादाय प्रति समृद्ध विक्रमः कालेनानुगताशेषः. That's one word. कालेनानुगताशेषः. Add a visarga there, शेषः. आस्ते तूष्णीं दिनात्यये. तमो मात्रामुपादाय प्रतिसमृद्ध विक्रमः कालेनानुगताशेषः आस्ते तूष्णीं दिनात्यये.
तमो मात्रामुपादाय प्रतिसमृद्ध विक्रमः कालेनानुगताशेषः आस्ते तूष्णीं दिनात्यये.
Manigar, you're on mute.
तमो मात्रामुपादाय प्रतिसमृद्धविक्रमः कालेनानुगताशेषः आस्ते तूष्णीं दिनात्यये.
Let's just switch for the next 20 minutes. Priya Shriram can be a student and Srividya Ramesh can be a student. तमेवान्वपि धीयन्ते लोका भूरादयस्त्रयः निशायाम् अनुवृत्तायाम्. If you want to break it, that ma, निशायाम् अनुवृत्तायाम् निर्मुक्त शशि भास्करम्. तमेवान्वपि धीयन्ते लोका भूरादयस्त्रयः निशायाम् अनुवृत्तायाम् निर्मुक्त शशि भास्करम्.
तमेवान्वपि धीयन्ते लोका भूरादयस्त्रयः निशायाम् अनुवृत्तायाम् निर्मुक्तशशिभास्करम्.
तमेवान्वपि धीयन्ते लोका भूरादयस्त्रयः निशायाम् अनुवृत्तायाम् निर्मुक्तशशिभास्करम्.
त्रिलोक्यां दह्यमानायां शक्त्या संकर्षणाग्निना यांत्युष्मना mahar lokat. So that ij that you have there, you put a it there because you're going to break it. Mahar lokat, janam brigvada yorditaha. So here they're just talking about in the Naimittika Pralaya, when the worlds are going to get destroyed completely, right? So Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who is at the very bottom of the Garbhodaka ocean, Visa. So he's lying on this Ananta Shesha. So from that Ananta Shesha, fire is going to emanate, which is going to burn all these bottom worlds up. Like we said, right, up to Bhuva Suvaha, Suvarloka. Till that, every world is going to be completely destroyed. He says that is going to get burnt because of the heat which is actually getting generated. That's how those worlds are completely going to be destroyed. So he says the source for that heat is the Sankarshana, who is the expansion of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From that Sankarshana, heat generates, which burns off all these planetary systems which are actually there. Trilokyam dahyamanaayam shaktya sankarshanagnina yantyushmana mahar lokate janam bhrigvadayorditaha.
त्रिलोक्यां दह्यमानायां शक्त्या सङ्कर्षणाग्निना यान्त्यूष्मना महर्लोकात् जनं भृग्वादयोर्दिताः
त्रिलोक्यां दह्यमानायां शक्त्या सङ्कर्षणाग्निना यान्तूष्णमर्हलोकात् जनं भृग्वाद्योर्दिताः.
The second line, first word, Yantyushmana.
Tyushna, okay. Yantyushmana, okay.
Tavat Tribhuvanam Sadyah, Kalpantaidhita Sindhavah, Plavayant Yutkatatopa. That's one word, you cannot break it. So Plavayant Yutkatatopa, put a plus, Chanda Vate Ritormayah. So that line is continuous. तावत् त्रिभुवनं सद्यः कल्पान्तैधितसिन्धवः प्लावयन्त्युत्कटाटोपचण्डवातेरितोर्मयः.
तावत् त्रिभुवनं सद्यः कल्पान्तैधितसिन्धवः प्लावयन्त्युत्कटाटोपचण्डवातेरितोर्मयः.
तावत् त्रिभुवनं सद्यः कल्पान्तैधितसिन्धवः प्लावयन्त्युत्कटाटोपचण्डवातेरितोर्मयः.
Antas sa tasmin salile. Some books have salila. If you have salila, just change it to salile. Salile, comma. Aste nantasano harihi. Yoga nidra nimilakshaha, comma. Stuyamano janalayehi. Antassa tasmin salile आस्ते नन्तासनो हरिः योग निद्रा निमीलाक्षः स्तूयमानो जनालयैः.
अन्तस्स तस्मिन् सलिले आस्ते नन्तासनो हरिः योगनिद्रा निमीलाक्षः स्तूयमानो जनालयैः.
अन्तस्स तस्मिन् सलिले आस्ते नन्तासनो हरिः योगनिद्रा निमीलाक्षः स्तूयमानो जनालयैः.
A quick description. So we say Aste Ananta Asano Harihi. So Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is in the lying on the Ananta Shesha. He's in a state of rest in the Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra means you are in a Nidra means sleep. Yoga Nidra means in a state of yogic rest. Doesn't mean quite sleeping like we do, but that just means there's no activity happening, right? So he's in the state of no activity because of which nothing is happening. This is during the Naimittika Pralaya time. And then Stuyamano Janalayehi. So the people who are in the Jana Loka, like we said, the sages who are in a state of Samadhi, they are worshipping you, because state of Samadhi means you are still thinking about something, you are still connecting to that Lord. So they are all in that state of worshipping, and you are, the Bhagavan is in the state of rest. Evam vidhair ahoratrehi. If you want to break at that ra, it's easier. Evam vidhair ahoratrehi, comma, kala gatyopa lakshitaihi, apakshitam ivasyapi. You can break at that ma if it's easier. Apakshitam ivasyapi, comma, paramayur vayash shatam. Evam vidhair ahoratrehi, कालगत्योपलक्षितैः अपक्षितमिवास्यापि परमायुर्वयः
एवं विधैरहोरात्रैः कालगत्योपलक्षितैः अपक्षितमिवास्यापि परमायुर्वयः
एवं विधैरहोरात्रैः कालगत्योपलक्षितैः अपक्षितमिवास्यापि परमायुर्वयः
Yadardham, it's yad ardham, but you can say it yadardham ayushas tasya, parardham abhidhiyate, purvah parardopakranto, hyaparodhya pravartate. Like we said, the parardha of Brahma, parardham. Parardha of Brahma is the half. So the dvitiya pararde, pratama pararde, right? So that's what they're going through these definitions right now. यदर्धमायुषस्तस्य परार्धम् अभिधीयते पूर्वः परार्धोपक्रान्तो ह्यपरोद्य प्रवर्तते
यदर्धमायुषस्तस्य परार्धमभिधीयते पूर्वः परार्धोपक्रान्तो ह्यपरोद्य प्रवर्तते
यदर्धमायुषस्तस्य परार्धमभिधीयते पूर्वः परार्धोपक्रान्तो ह्यपरोद्य प्रवर्तते
पूर्वस्यादौ परार्धस्य ब्राह्मो नाम महानभूत कल्पो यत्राभवत् ब्रह्मा शब्द ब्रह्मेति यं विदुः. Like we said, every day of Brahma has a name. Like we said, this is Shweta Varaha Kalpa. But it's not every name every day because it's 50 years, right? So that means 50 times, so many days. So not everything is listed everywhere. But the first the day of Brahma is called as the Brahma Kalpa. That is a well-known name. So because that is the first time Brahma came, where he heard the tapa, and which we saw earlier, right? That first day is called as Brahma Kalpa, which is to be known. And then this is the Shweta Varaha Kalpa, which we know. पूर्वस्याधौ परार्धस्य ब्राह्मो नाम महानभूत कल्पो यत्राभवत् ब्रह्मा शब्द ब्रह्मेति यं विदुः.
पूर्वस्यादौ परार्धस्य ब्राह्मो नाम महानभूत कल्पो यत्राभवत् ब्रह्मा शब्द ब्रह्मेति यं विदुः.
पूर्वस्यादौ परार्धस्य ब्राह्मो नाम महानुभूत कल्पो यत्राभवत् ब्रह्मा शब्द ब्रह्मेति यं विदुः.
तस्यैव चान्ते कल्पोऽभूत्, यं पाद्मम् अभिचक्षते यद्धरेर्नाभि सरसः, you can put a visarga there, sarasah, आसील्लोक सरोरुहम्. तस्यैव चान्ते कल्पोऽभूत् यं पाद्मम् अभिचक्षते यद्धरेर्नाभि सरसः आसील्लोक सरोरुहम्.
तस्यैव चान्ते कल्पोऽभूत् यं पाद्ममभिचक्षते यद्धरेर्नाभिसरसः आसील्लोकसरोरुहम्.
तस्यैव चान्ते कल्पोऽभूत् यं पाद्ममभिचक्षते यद्धरेर्नाभिसरसः आसील्लोकसरोरुहम्.
अयं तु कथितः कल्पो, द्वितीयस्यापि भारत वाराह इति विख्यातो, यत्रासीत् सूकरो हरिः. अयं तु कथितः कल्पो द्वितीयस्यापि भारत वाराह इति विख्यातो यत्रासीत् सूकरो हरिः.
अयं तु कथितः कल्पो द्वितीयस्यापि भारत वाराह इति विख्यातो यत्रासीत् सूकरो हरिः.
अयं तु कथितः कल्पो द्वितीयस्यापि भारत वाराह इति विख्यातो यत्रासीत् सुकरो हरिः.
He is saying this is called as a Varaha Kalpa. The first day of the second half is called Varaha Kalpa because Hari took the incarnation of a Varaha. Kaloyam Dviparardhakyo, Nimesha Upacharyate Avyakritasyanantasya, that's one word, Avyakritasyanantasya, Anade Jagadatmanaha. कालोऽयं द्विपरार्धाख्यो निमेष उपचर्यते अव्याकृतस्यानन्तस्य अनादेर्जगदात्मनः.
Rajesh, இங்க கொஞ்சம் ஹியாந்தே ஜகதாத்மனஹ இருக்கு. Here,
Oh,
there.
second line, last part.
Second part, right, last part.
Okay, I don't know what the difference is, but you can maybe change it to Anader Jagadatmanah.
Okay.
Anader Jagadatmanah.
कालोऽयं द्विपरार्धाख्यो निमेष उपचर्यते अव्याकृतस्यानन्तस्य अनादेर्जगदात्मनः.
कालोऽयं द्विपरार्धाख्यो निमेष उपचर्यते अव्याकृतस्यानन्तस्य अनादेर्जगदात्मनः.
कालोऽयं paramanvadihi. Put a visarga comma, paramanvadihi. Next on the dvi there is a ir that will go away. Dviparardhanta ishwaraha. Naiveshitum prabhur bhumnaha. Again visarga and comma there because we are pausing. Ishwaro dhamamaninam. कालोऽयं परमान्वादिः द्विपरार्धान्त ईश्वरः नैवेशितुं प्रभुर्भूम्नः ईश्वरो धाममानिनाम्.
कालोऽयं परमान्वादिः द्विपरार्धान्त ईश्वरः नैवेशितुं प्रभुर्भूम्नः ईश्वरो धाममानिनाम्.
कालोऽयं परमाणवादिः द्विपरार्धान्त ईश्वरः नैवेशितुं प्रभुर्भुग्नः ईश्वरो धाममानिनाम्.
विकारैः सहितो युक्तैः. पुट विसर्गा कमा युक्तैः विशेषाधिभिरावृतः आण्डकोशो बहिरयं पंचाशत् कोटि विस्तृतः. So first it talks about no matter, like we discussed before, from the smallest of the paramanu, the time, to the highest of the time, which is the life of Brahma. And even that, right? Remember, there is only one Brahma. There has been several Brahmas who have already come for this universe. So the Brahma just, it's like we said, the Brahmas just keep coming because every time a universe is getting formed, there's a Brahma who is getting formed. And we'll see later in Krishna Avataram where multiple Brahmas Krishna will show this Brahma. There are multiple Brahmas. You are nothing compared to the other Brahmas because they have much massive universes compared to what you have, right? Which is at the end of the day, from the smallest Paramanu to the life of Brahma, everything is managed by the Supreme Lord. That's why in the previous thing, Vidura asked Maitreya about, tell me the concept of time. And Maitreya says, whatever the concept of time is, that is a tool which is used by Bhagavan to govern various things. All of this is under the control. The concept of time itself is under the control of Bhagavan. विकारैः सहितो युक्तैः विशेषाधिभिरावृतः आण्डकोशो बहिरयं 50 कोटि विस्तृतः.
विकारैः सहितो युक्तैः विशेषाधिभिरावृतः आण्डकोशो बहिरयं 50 कोटि विस्तृतः.
विकारैः सहितो युक्तैः विशेषादिभिरावृतः आण्डकोशो बहिरयं 50 कोटि विस्तृतः.
The first vikarais, okay, R sound.
Sorry, okay, vikarais.
Dashotaradikair yatra, pravishtah paramanuvat laksyatentar gataschanye, kotisho hendarashayah. Dashotaradikair yatra pravishtah paramanuvat लक्ष्यतेऽन्तर्गताश्चान्ये कोटिशो ह्यण्डराशयः
दशोत्तराधिकैर्यत्र प्रविष्टः परमानुवत् लक्ष्यतेऽन्तर्गताश्चान्ये कोटिशो ह्यण्डराशयः
दशोऽन्तराधिकैर्यत्र प्रविष्टः परमाणुवत् लक्ष्यतेऽन्तर्गताश्चान्ये कोटिशो ह्यण्डराशयः.
The quick thing on this. So there is, and this, it's very complicated to even comprehend. So I won't even attempt to, but it talks about how this everything that we talked about, this Brahmandam, where there's 14 worlds, all are there. You kind of think of it as one, let's say, one structure, right? We saw about, it talks about this has multiple layers on outside of it. So just that is not an observable universe, is what it is telling, right? Because when it first formed, we saw how the Mahat and all these things start coming and the layers. So think of it as you have anything like simple thing I think of is an egg, right? You have the yolk inside of the egg. And then it has a layer, multiple thick layer, because when you boil the egg, you remove the shell, it is still pretty thick outside. So it's got a thick, and then it's got a shell outside, right? So similarly, it's talking about how this material world itself is billions of miles in width, in diameter. But outside of that, there are other layers of things which are there, which are all just protective layers for that universe, right? And I don't know about other universe, but this universe is just, and each of that is thicker than the previous one, is what it's telling. So it's got multiple protective layers outside. So the overall observable universe is very wide, but only the 14 planets are in a small portion of that observable. Even that is billions of miles, but that is only a small portion. There are a lot of things which are still part of this universe, which doesn't have any planets and all of those things, right? And then in the very last, it says, when we go to Tadahur Aksharam Brahma, Sarva Karana Karanam, Vishnor Dhama Param Sakshat, Purushasya Mahatmanaha. This was that Mahavishnu from whom all of this came. That region, that spiritual world, and that Mahavishnu is the only one which is eternal, which doesn't get destroyed. All of these things have some timelines of getting destroyed, right? Whether it's Naimitika Pralaya, some goes away, Prakritika Pralaya, the whole thing goes away. And this duration of the Pralaya could be different for different universes. So all of this have some timeline, but they have some relative timeline. But Vishnur Dhama Param Saksha, that is the one which is permanently there and eternal, and it never gets destroyed. Tadahuraksharam Brahma Sarvakarana Karanam Vishnordhama Param Sakshat Purushasya Mahatmanah.
Tadahurakṣaram Brahma Sarvakarana-karanam Vishnordhama Param Sakshat Purushasya Mahatmanah.
Tadahurakṣaram Brahma Sarvakarana-karanam Vishnurdhama Param Sakshat Purushasya Mahatmanah.
It is Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Tritiya Skandhe Ekadashodhyayah.
Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Tritiya Skandhe Ekadashodhyayah.
Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Tritiya Skandhe Ekadashodhyayah.
Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda, Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai, Kahena Vacha Manasendriye Va Buddhyatmana Va Prakrute Swabhavat, Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami.
Rajesh, I have a question. In slokam number 36.
Yeah.
Second line, it says Vikyato, right? If we are stopping, should we say Vikyataha?
Vikyato, I mean, generally at the Vikyataha, you're right, and then Vikyato comes because some other word is coming later.
Okay.
But even when I learned it, they didn't separate it as Vikyataha. I don't know. Atte, what is your recommendation there?
Yeah, Vikyataha is correct. In combination with what follows,
Yeah.
That, yeah, because of that, it becomes Vikhyato.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Vikhyataha, if you stop there, Vikhyataha, when you pause there, Vikhyataha is correct.
It's okay. So, okay, then should we change it to Vikyataha there?
It's only for convenience. Yeah. Because we are passing every 8 letters.
Yeah.
So it is good to say Vikhyataha.
Okay.
So,
So
nothing
just
wrong if you continue as Vikhyato.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So we just change it to Vikyataha in that 36 second line, right? So it will become Paraha iti Vikyataha yatrasit sukaro harihi.
So should we follow the same thing for everywhere where the to comes, where we are stopping? Like anywhere the to comes, if we are stopping there, should we just say
only if we want to split the word and know the meaning. Other if we are saying it at one flow, you don't have to. So whatever the teacher says. So
Anyway, because we are pausing in the middle for convenience, right? We're adding visarga in some places and all of that, right? Only for convenience.
Right.
So under Sametla, everywhere there's wherever need. I don't think every to is going to become a visarga there, but wherever it comes, maybe we should revisit it.
It just struck me because Sundarakandam engalam to vardo we are stopping. So at that place,
right,
if you're stopping over there, yeah.
Correct. And the Vikyataha, it becomes a to only because of the letter word following after that, right?
See, Mridu, when it is followed by Mridu Vyanjana, it takes O-kara. Aha becomes O. The visarga is lost. And then, so it follows a certain rule. So A becomes O only when it is followed by Mridu Vyanjana, like da, ga, ja, da, and then ya, va, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, we can change it, Srividya, right? But like I said, Krishna Premi Anna would chanting they are not breaking it. They are saying it as stone because that's what I follow. So I kept it that way.
But I was stop pandrala.
They stop it there. I depends. When they are some people who are early people stop it, but people who are experts don't stop in the middle. They just continuously go, right? But yeah, technically you are right. That becomes a Vikyataha there.
Okay.
Right. So I mean, from next when you go to 3.12, things will become more understandable because it will be something we can relate to because the Sanat Kumaras will come and Rudra will come and all of that. So we can at least relate to it because all this while it has been a middle starting portion, Mahabharata, all of that is we can easily understand. Then there is this portion of this whole cosmos and Brahma and everything which is so difficult to grasp, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to grasp it because it's not expected that you grasp everything, right? Because these things it's complicated, right? And even nobody will know exactly. Like even Brahma says, right? I myself don't understand you, O Lord, completely. Right? So we can't try to over-analyze and try to put logic to understand a lot of these things. It's just beyond those understanding. We can't even understand what's happening within our body properly, right? So forget understanding the whole universe and the cosmos.
People like Dushyant should really worried about, not us.
Anybody I'm saying, they cannot, I'm saying it's very difficult, right?
Yeah,
so all you do is you try to understand what is basic required. Because later on I'll say, oh, this is like the question that Ramesh asked, oh, it's all happening during this Satyayugam. No, right? Because when we go later, we'll say Swayambhuva Manu, this is happening, that Manu, this is happening. So you need to map that timeline in your mind mentally of the moment I say a Manu, it is 71 Chaturyugas are passed. So the moment the next Manu is coming, 71 Chaturyugas are passed already. These are huge, thousands and thousands of years have passed, right? So as long as you have that context in mind, then it is good enough, right, for us to follow what is happening.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rajesh.
Thanks, Rajesh.
Thanks, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, next week we have the Parayanam. Let's see enna pandrathu for the class. Okay. Because next week we'll think next week after the Parayanam what to do for the class.
Okay.
Rest your voice
Rajesh,
today.
a lot of people are missing. Anything going on there in Chicago?